Well, folks, I'm back. I'm Bob. The last 4 5 days, last week have been incredible for me. I've been watching the DNC convention and what joy and enthusiasm, right? And I think that Kamala Harris may have bought, as her announcement of her candidacy may have bought, opened new paths for the Democratic Party, which I agreed that maybe Biden's numbers were not all that bad, but Harris's numbers are a lot better. And so much enthusiasm, and you can't understand it. I mean, the first time I heard Republicans for Harris and evangelicals for Harris, and so on and so forth. Right? I actually was a green card holder, house in Pennsylvania, a suburb, Philadelphia suburbs, came back. And now I actually kind of wish I hadn't, because to me, till now, the US continues to be the most exciting country for opportunities, for living, for creating all different kinds of policies. It has its warts, obviously it has its warts, right? But it's not as down and out as Trump makes it out to be, that it's a third world country and they're being invaded and people are dumping criminals into the United States. That's not true. Okay, so I'm having this conversation with my brother, right? And he really is, he's been a Democrat, contributing at $200, as like he says, to them all the time, but he's not going to do it this time. I asked him why. He said, because what the Democratic Party did was a coup. It was not democracy. It got me thinking, what does he mean by a coup, right? It's an inner party function, right? They decided that Biden was just not the right man. His numbers were falling. There was no money coming into the coffers. That was going to dry up. Who was going to fight the election? You actually have to go into the election to fight, right? Not to protect inner party democracy of the Democrats, right? Not actually seeing that really was no, even though they had the entire process and the Republicans, most of the Republicans were bullied out by Trump and Trumpers and MAGA, right? And I know what inner party democracy and how it works and how it doesn't work in India. It's like the BJP doesn't have inner party democracy, right? And we are a democracy, right? Does it matter? I don't know, right? But what is a visual comparison to us? Is you actually on this is apparently a democracy that a cabal or a deep state runs, and then I wonder what's the deep state, right? We've been hearing about the deep state forever. If I go back into history, where did the deep state start? It probably started, I would think, during the robber baron times, right? The four guys, J.P. Morgan. You had J.P. Morgan, you had Vanderbilt, you had Rockefeller, right? Oil, railroads, finance, and then it kind of probably, I think, it got a real huge boost, in my opinion, during Reagan's time, when the economy just turned just to financial economy, complete disconnect between the financial economy, the real economy. You came up with quarterly results, and everything was about quarterly results, and the stock market had got a gas on its own, right? And it was running away. It was all this money being created, etc. So if anything, from 1980 to 2024, 44 years, you have, I think I calculated 24 years of Republicans and 20 years of the Democrats. If there was a cabal or a deep state, I would have, there's a lot to do with the Christian right? And I would think it would be the Republicans, right? Especially when you looked at the Afghan war, you look at the Iraq war, all started by the Republicans, right? And the creation of all these private sector companies like Halliburton and all, who started then contracting for the war. I would think that would be the deep state. But either way, you look at the comparison. This is a cabal or Robert Kennedy. I don't know, do you really trust Robert Kennedy and to tell you that it's a coup? Or actual visuals of a violent insurrection on January 6, 2020. You have it in your face. Well, what's going to happen, right? The choice for me is clear, but that doesn't matter. I'm not an American citizen, right? But here's what I saw. Kamala vows a new way forward, a never Trump guy, a Vance remix goes viral. And obviously, Trump has got, if Trump stays on point, that means he goes after what his strength is, where the gap is still quite wide, though it's come down, is immigration and economic policy. Right? But when you hear him, there is no policy. People are complaining that she has no policy. When you listen to Trump, he actually has no policy. When he talks about prices, somebody set up this prop for him, which were Oreos on this side. I mean, all kinds of groceries. But he didn't at one point say that these groceries on my backside, today's date, are much more expensive than when I left office. He didn't say that. Right? So where's the policy? All he said is, I'm going to tell every senior commissioner to bring down prices rapidly. How is he going to do that, right? So Kamala vows a new way forward. Coach gives class on choice. Kamala, Mindy, and a taste of India in American elections. Then what do you have? Then you have Thierry Biden passes baton to Kamala, says, America, I gave my best to you. Let me tell you this. He came in at the point he came in, right? Democracy was seriously in trouble. And you were headed towards an autocracy. There was no doubt, right? He fought a tough election and he won. That's the important part. So he has an important place in history. And also his economic policy, especially the ones that has brought back real quality jobs into the United States and of this CHIP Act, etc., are actually extremely forward-looking after Reagan gutted his economic policy, gutted the United States manufacturing, right? How Harris reframes Biden's democracy, folks. Now, this is very important. And people, democracy constitution is what lost BJP the majority. They came back from 303 to 240. Do remember, BJP is not in power. NDA is. And BJP lost percentage of shares, lost the seats. The very fact that it lost half the seats in Uttar Pradesh tells you, should send the rest of the people a message, especially as this guys who live outside, which is really funny. Timothy Clifford writes, the purpose of life of an Indian is to escape India. It can either be done by leaving India physically or figuratively by shifting to a gated community. Once the Indian escapes India, India becomes the best country in the world and requires no improvement. That, unfortunately, is what's happening to most of our NRIs who continue to think that BJP is doing wonders for this country, right? Then you have this Donald in La La Land after Kamala's speech, ratings Trumpism, and he's also a camera GV just like our Prime Minister. Right? He loves the camera, he loves the audience. And what bothers him the most, like it bothers Trump, if the other person's getting all the crowds. Kamala faces a Kennedy wrinkle on road to Camelot? I don't think so. My view is I think Kennedy is by joining Trump is going to hurt him more. Right? Obama's take down Trump, talk up Harris. Empathetic Emhoff carries the chair for Kamala's accession. Now, Obama apparently and the Clintons are leaders of this deep state. I don't think so, right? Trump turns some Republicans to Harris' side, and I can't believe this, right? Especially Arizona. Republicans for Harris. Evangelicals for Harris. For God's sake, right? And this was going to help tremendously. Time has come for Fed to cut interest rates, says Fed chair. The other thing I'd like to do, I mean, I don't know whether I'm hearing the true facts or not. I am told that the report released by the FBI clearly says that violent crime is down from Trump's time. And also, I've heard that the border crossings are lower than the time at Trump's time, during the wall being built. If this is true, I think the Democrats should do exactly what the Congress did, them and us, right? But what is going to be a huge problem is this. West Asia on edge as Israel-Hezbollah trade missiles. And Zelensky proposes India as venue for next peace summit, right? Now why I've got this Zelensky in is because I think that two things happened at the same time. Prime Minister went to meet Zelensky and Rajnath was in the United States. Same time. We were getting a lot of flack for having visited Putin and hugging him, right? Now and at that time I think our foreign policy actually thought that Trump was a shoo-in. And so did the United States and so did the Trumpers, right? But I think that's changed and that's why the run for Zelensky. Attacking Hezbollah, Israel fighters, jets bomb Lebanon. Obama turns back clock for Kamala Harris. Yes, he can. Yes, she can. Harris, Waltz attack Trump as they hold first joint campaign. And then you have this, written by Salil Tripathi, a republic, if they can keep it, seeing Harris's candidacy in ethnic terms is puerile. It absolutely is. There is a lot more at risk. Bigger issues are at stake for America. He says, Vance has already ridiculed childless women like Harris, but none of the past 46 American presidents gave birth to a child because they were incapable of doing so. They were all men. A resounding defeat for Trump and Vance would be good not only for America but also for the Republican Party. Important message. Trump says whole world sending criminals and lunatics to America. Says useless. He's elected. US to see depression. World War III imminent. Now this is Trump. Fear. Guess where else we are peddled fear? And fear lost. And democracy won in the Indian election. And probably is going to happen true in the United States too. Kamala waltzes to the left by choosing progressive Tim Walz as running mate. But Tim Walz is a member of the NRA and has guns and has the best shot in the capital, right? But he also supports control gun laws because he wants to protect the children, right? Democrats pitch Harris Walz team as ticket of joy for US. Hope it will open doors for Kamala to white votes, blue wall states. And I think it is, right? Popular music fades at Trump rallies as Harris hits crescendo. Unbelievable. The roll call, if you juxtapose the roll calls at the RNC and then at the DNC. DNC was a mela, was a party, was a circus, right? But it got eyeballs, right? It got eyeballs and got a lot of people thinking twice. Kamala's a pop, feminine or menon, but will Gen Z fall for memes, right? Here's the thing. Gen Z is critical and it's enthused. The three people that have opened a bigger path for Harris now is improvement in her vote, her acceptance with the youth, with Hispanics, and with black men, which Biden's was much, much lower. Right? How many of these people come out to vote is obviously an issue. Trump attacks Kamala for stealing ideas. Harris backs ending taxes on tips, a promise made by ex-president to working class. But the person who empathizes with the working class, because of the way she puts it, hers is all about the middle class, right? In India, it's all about the poor, the same. She wants people to get ahead, not just get by. And that's exactly the case with the 5 kg Anaj guys who were just getting by, and this government thought that they would have their vote in UP and Bihar. Actually didn't have. That's the message that UP sent us. Trump meltdown over crowd size raises fears of mental decline. Trump's attacks on Kamala fuel fear he's setting stage for chaos in case of November loss. Kamala Harris, USA welcoming reformists. To understand Harris, go back not just to the movements for justice and freedom, but also to the strand of reform rather than radicalism that has shaped America. And this, when you're saying this, you are seeing a very similar path that Rahul Gandhi is charted here. Congress to continue frame social justice as centerpiece of its politics. Okay. Modi attempts a tricky balance in Kyiv as US-Russia watch closely. Like I said, Putin's visit to Russia was all about thinking that Trump was a shoo-in. His visiting Zelensky now he doesn't know, because Ukraine blows up key bridge in Russia region it invaded. Russia oil trade kept global prices stable, says India. This is India's fallback on after being blamed that it's India is actually fueling and funding the war. Right? Zelensky seeks tie-up with India for producing drones, electronic warfare systems. What do we do here, right? What do we do here? Because do remember, the biggest defense compound or industry in the unbroken USSR was actually Ukraine. That's where all our tanks came from, right? Zelensky vows more retribution for Russia as POWs exchange. Zelensky raises India's trade with Russia, calls for change in stance. This is exactly what I meant with oil, right? And our pushback. Peace a la Kyiv, as written by Ajay Bisara. Modi's visit to Ukraine isn't about appeasing Western partners after his Moscow visit. It's about being credible voice of the global South. Unfortunately, we've not been given mantle of the global South, right? The poor nations that suffer when richer ones fight, that's true. Peace effort, PM begins visit to Poland and Ukraine. The problem with our visits is that Prime Minister only has an Indian audience. And they have this Indian Gujarati dance most of the times. Dandiyas, if there's no other state there, right? No other state in India. But why only Indian audience? Why only the diaspora, right? You're out there in this world, you have got to meet the Ukrainians and see what they think. You've got to go to Polish and see what they think. How does Ukraine see India in three different ways? First, Kyiv wants to understand New Delhi's position. I think we don't understand it ourselves. Second, Kyiv wants to figure out New Delhi's motivation. I guess we don't figure it out. We don't know either. Third, Kyiv is grateful for the very fact of Modi's visit, and that's the only thing that's true. Not neutral, India on the side of peace PM in Kyiv, that is right. India, but this is why it's important, right? India-USI boost in ties across key sectors, meeting with Jake Sullivan. India-US signed two key agreements to boost industrial ties. That's meeting Lloyd Austin. Indo-Pacific in focus as Singh meets Austin. India-US inked two defense pacts to bolster ties. The most consequential relationship there is, no matter how much we futz around with Russia and China, etc. Right? But this is what the Americans and the Democrats and the doubters in the United States should see. In India, eventually the fight became about people who wanted to get ahead, not just get by, which is the poor, the Dalit, the scheduled caste, the scheduled, right? And the 5 kg nudge, and the system and Modi, right? And it probably will happen in the United States. I see it happening in the United States. So the boomerang effect in this general election and how writes Vivek Deshpande is a long article. But the important part is this. The Constitution of India has struck back, rebuffing the ruling party and its misconceived campaign against a perceived enemy. That's the important line. Guess what? This is exactly what's happening in the United States. Who is the perceived enemy as far as Trump is concerned? The general election of 2024, its true verdict, written by M.K. Narayanan, former director and IB chief. And look at what he writes. He says, the election outcome could possibly lower the risk of India sliding towards autocracy. And that is something the United States needs to save too, because I don't think they should worry about this internal coup in democracy when the guardrails are gone with the new Supreme Court ruling where the president can do whatever he wants and he can't be sued, right? Indians who migrate abroad double their income. This is an important part. Why the United States? Why it came back? I don't know. As their incomes increase by more than 100% when they move abroad, most Indians do not return home even if they are paid more than they were earlier. And when they go to the US, it improves by almost 493%. Why would they come back to no jobs, right? Then I asked myself, why did I come back? But as I told you, by polls an indication of a new anti-incumbency. The recent by-poll outcomes show clear vote share drop for the BJP to the benefit of the India bloc parties. And this is for all those Indians out there who think that everything is hunky-dory in India and that good old Prime Minister is at his peak. Just remember, this is not the BJP of the yo. This is not Prime Minister of the old. We have 5 U-turns already showing how weak he is. So, folks, 3 cheers and Jai Hind. I think that it's an exciting time to watch American politics, and I hope most people in the United States make the right decision. 3 cheers, Jai Hind.